All right, so question for you right off the bat. How many of you have made a New Year's resolution or kind of made a decision that you wanted to do something, this year that you maybe want to do a long time or work on something? Raise your hand. Whether, just on the inside of your, you didn't share it. Okay, how many of you have ever done a New Year's resolution? Raise your hand. Okay, so yeah, most of us. Now, how many of you have completed your New Year's resolution? Raise your hand. Okay, yeah, there you go. All right, that's kind of how it works, isn't it? Hey, I did some research. I want to share with you the top 10 New Year's resolutions, okay? Top 10. First one is to spend more time with family and friends. I'm so busy. I'm gone so much this year. I'm going to be home more, okay? Number 2, guess what number 2 is? Lose weight. There you go. Lose weight, get fit, okay? Number 3 is to quit smoking. Okay, all right, so if you do number 2, it's going to help you probably do number 3, or number 3 is really going to be a drag for number 2. But to drink less, and I don't think that means water, okay, to save more money, to get out of debt, those kind of go together, learn something new is number 7. So I want to learn something new, like, calf roping or something, okay? Number 8 is I want to help others. I want to volunteer more. I want to get more involved in other people's lives. It's just not about me. Okay? Number 9 is I just kind of a generic, I want to enjoy life more. Just less stress. Wouldn't it be great if we had less stress? Yes. Okay, I see a lot of bobbing heads, okay? It either means you're tired and you're drifting off already with me, or you agree. And then number 10 is get organized. Okay, so I guess number 10, if we could put number 10 up towards the top, maybe all these things could happen, right? If we could organize our lives in that way. And when we have New Year's resolutions, and don't we do this? We wait until January 1st, and then if we're going to lose weight, I'm just going to pig out Christmas and New Year's because I'm going to start on the 1st, right? Okay, and then we get to the 1st, and we dive in quick, right? Now, we're going to go, I want to start running. I'm going to go run 3 miles on January 1st when you haven't run to the mailbox in the last 10 years, okay? And so we get there and we start out, we're motivated. In fact, my wife, in one of the classes that she body pump over at 24 Hour Fitness, her instructor says, hey, you're going to have to get here early after the 1st, but don't worry, it's only about a month, okay? But you're going to have to come early, get into class, because people get started and we are just motivated to no end. So I did some other research to see how well we do with our New Year's resolutions, okay? So here we go. Those who make it past the first week, 75%. That means 25% of us, after a couple days, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore, okay? Past 2 weeks, 71%. After 1 month, there's still 64% of us that are still going strong, okay? After 6 months, 46% are going. And the Journal of Clinical Psychology, volume 58 from the year 2002, just so you know, I looked this up, okay, said that only 8% of Americans say they actually accomplished their New Year's resolution. 8%, okay? That's kind of a drag. It's kind of depressing, isn't it? It really is. It's kind of a drag. When we start off this year, we have these hopes and these desires, but then we kind of end up in the same place we were than when we started, okay? Or maybe sometimes even worse. Have you ever experienced that? You still want to lose that 20 pounds. I'm still in debt. I still don't have enough money in the bank. I'm not as close to my family as I want to be. I haven't been spending as much time as I want to spend, and even spiritually. Spiritually, it's I want to grow closer to God. And sometimes we feel like I'm not as close as I want to be. Maybe I feel like I've been stuck in a place. And it's not bad, but I've been kind of stuck there for quite a while. And I'm not even sure what to do to get out of that. I'm doing the things I don't want to do, and I'm not doing the things I want to do with my walk with the Lord. And if you're like Paul, he shares that about himself in Romans chapter 7. Man, the very things I want to do, I don't do, and the very things I don't want to do, I find myself doing. And he goes, oh, wretched man that I am, and I can definitely relate to that. And and I think as I think about New Year's resolutions, I think about these things that are going on, I can't help but wonder that one of the reasons that we may fail is because we want to experience something in our life that is good. We know that something's missing. We know that something is not there maybe the way we want it there, but we choose the wrong thing to get us to where we want to go. We think if I get in shape, then I'll be happy, right? Or if I quit smoking, then I'm going to live longer, whatever it is. But we make these New Year's resolutions because we want to be better people. We want our lives to account for more. We want to experience more. We want to live every day to the degree that we could just grab hold of life and just taste it, right? Well, in order to do that, we need to choose the right thing, don't we? And we need to ask ourselves a question: what matters most? What matters most? What is it that will be the thing that will really help to propel me and actually have an effect on everything else? And the great thing is, in Scripture, it tells us what that thing is. In fact, I want you, if you have your Bibles, turn to Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. We're going to be reading. If not, it'll be up here on the screen. But in Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42, it says this: "Now as they," meaning Jesus and his apostles, were traveling along, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Now, this is Martha and Mary, and then they had a brother Lazarus, okay, who they were all brothers and sisters. And many people believe that they were either very close friends, childhood friends, family friends with Jesus growing up, or possibly cousins, okay? So very close people, Jesus knows. Verse 39, "She had a sister called Mary who was seated at the Lord's feet listening to his word. But Martha was distracted with all her preparations. And she came up to Jesus and said, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the serving alone?'" Can you see this? Have you ever experienced this in your home? Okay. Then tell her to help me. And you notice here, she asks a question. She doesn't even allow him to answer. She just tells him what to do. Okay. Now, I've never experienced that. But the Lord answered and said to her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and bothered about so many things. But only one thing is necessary. For Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her." Jesus comes into this family's home. And Mary and Martha are there, sisters, know Jesus. They love Jesus, okay? But they both interact with him in a different way. And I think the way they interact with Jesus here is a great picture of often how we will begin to interact with Jesus. So let's look at Martha first, okay? Martha was busy, right? In fact, it says here that Martha was distracted with all of her preparations. That means that she was distracted from something. Okay? And what we see later on with Mary, we'll look at what she was distracted from. It's kind of obvious as we read that, but she was so distracted. She's working hard serving people. She's cleaning. She's doing things, preparing a meal. And sometimes we feel this way. At least I do. Especially during this time of the year. Great, good things though, right? And we're involved at cooking and at the Thanksgiving outreach. We're involved the stuff in the holidays. We're serving people, in the community, serving people in our home, loving people, doing this. And if those of you who have spiritual gifts that you're even operating in, you can still, what the Bible even says here with Martha, because I believe Martha had the gift of hospitality. We always see her taking care of people. But even operating within that spiritual gift of hospitality, she can become worried and bothered by a whole lot of things. Have you ever been there? Worried and bothered about so many things? Overwhelmed? Where you lay down at night and all of a sudden your mind starts going and there's no sleep that's going to be coming to you very quickly. And you just get stressed, you get anxious. Worried and bothered about so many things, working hard. And maybe let's just look in the church, look at what even in serving God. Maybe, or statistics say that 20% of the people in the church do 80% of the work. Okay? It's that 28 ratio, which is not good. Okay? And I think we're a little bit better here. Okay? But, maybe you're one of the 20 and you're working hard. And then you look around, and you just see you're working so hard, you're tired, and sometimes you get frustrated because it seems like you're the only one working. All right? But then again, maybe you're one of those people who won't let anyone else work, okay? I don't know. But you're working hard, and you look around, and the people aren't helping, and you just get frustrated. You get a little bitter. Why am I always the one having to do this? I'm so tired. I don't have time for everything. And so you go to Jesus, as Martha did. It says, "Martha," it says, "God, why don't you do something?" I mean, and I wonder if for some people who are caught up in this busyness mentality, for you not to work, would that be more frightening than to be stressed out from doing so much? Could it be more horrifying to you not to be doing something than to be doing too much? I don't know. But Jesus has come to their home, okay? And Jesus has said, hey, listen, this is what I am. I want you to spend time with me. You know, it's in America, I think that there is when we look at people who are serving and who are busy, who are involved in the church and service, and we look at them, we go, oh, look at how great they are. I mean, it's something that we should emulate, something that we should be proud of. We even see it as a sign of spirituality sometimes, don't we? You know, I was at Eastside Christian Church, and I was on staff there in the mid-'80s. I was a high school pastor there. And luckily, this wasn't the motto of the church when I was there. In fact, at an elders meeting one time, I said, have we ever asked for forgiveness for that motto? But they used to have on the side of their vans, Eastside Christian Church. A busy church, always serving, okay? I thought, who would want to go there? Oh, no, what are they going to have me do, okay? And it's like, you know, they were so proud. We're a busy church, always serving, always doing stuff. Oh, everywhere. And they would say every day and every night of the week there was something going on, okay? And that can be good, but I don't know. Remember, Martha was tired. She was burned out. And there's Mary, okay, lazy Mary, all right? I'll tell you. Mary, it says in verse 39, was sitting down at Jesus' feet, listening to him. Just sitting down. Man, he was talking. We don't know what he was talking about. We don't know if it was a question and answer time. We don't know if he was telling a story. I think Jesus was a good storyteller, okay? He'll say, oh, guess what happened the other day? You know, and you always know it's going to be good, all right? But she's just listening to him, taking it in, drinking it in. She's loving it. In fact, in verse 42, Jesus says, she chose the good part. And the part was basically not to serve me. And there's nothing wrong with serving me. Jesus didn't put Martha down. He didn't say, you know, he says you're distracted, okay? But he didn't say what she was doing was bad. But she's chosen the best. And that is to be involved with me, interacting with me. See, when Jesus says here, if Jesus had a choice if he had to choose between someone serving him and someone spending time with him, he would always choose someone spending time with him. Always. That's what he wants from us more than anything else. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying serving is wrong, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But God says, first and foremost, Jesus, first and foremost, I just want to be with you. And I just want you to be with me. I want us to be spending time together. And she was spending time with Jesus, not doing anything else. Now, this doesn't mean that Mary didn't serve Jesus. In fact, we don't have time to go there, but in Matthew 26, if you want to look at a passage, Matthew 26, 6 through 13, it tells a story of something that Mary did at the end of Jesus' life, and Jesus promised, because of what she did, out of that relationship with Jesus, would be remembered, you know, for all history. And we have it in the Word here. There was a promise because of service that she rendered him. Now, Jesus says we need to spend time on those things that will not be taken away, okay? Which means time with him. You know, now, there's another passage I want to go to, and you can turn real quick to John chapter 15 if you have that. But in order for us to spend time with Jesus, that means we need to remain connected with him. We need to remain connected with him. We need to be around him. We need to be there with him. In a marriage, you know, it describes the two shall become one, okay? And that intimacy is not just a physical intimacy. It's a spiritual intimacy. It's a relational intimacy. It's an emotional intimacy. It's an intellectual intimacy. It's a financial intimacy. There's a oneness in every one of those areas of our lives. And the same thing is true with God, with our relationship with him. We need to be connected with him. And in John chapter 15, 1 through 5, Jesus shares some incredible words. And I want you to understand in John 13 through 17, it's the last words of Jesus' last words on this earth. And he's going through this long teaching time, sharing truth. And these are the last things he's saying to his apostles. And right smack dab in the middle is John 15. And 1 through 5 says this. It says, I am the vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it so that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because the word which I have spoken to you abide in me, and I in you. As a branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. You know, Jesus talks about being with him and serving, but the one flows out of the other. It says abide. Now, it says we need to abide in the vine, and Jesus is the vine. okay? And we are the branches. That term vine, or abide actually, is used 11 times in the first 11 verses of this chapter. I mean, I think it's something important that Jesus is saying here, that we need to abide in him. Now, that word abide basically means this: something that remains where it is. So it is continued in a fixed state or endures. And basically it means it's an unbroken communion with God. It's an unbroken communion with God. That you're always there with him. That's what he wants. He needs to stay connected to the vine. Now, and if you've ever been around plants, you'll understand that vines are things that grow everywhere, don't they? I had a tree in my backyard when I lived in Anaheim, and we had this ivy that came up from like someone else's yard, invaded my yard, and it was actually growing up my tree and around branches, taking everything over. And so I began to look at it, and I began to try to pull them away. And there's no way I'm going to pull them off. I mean, they were like grafted into the tree. So I went to a nursery and said, how do I get this off? And he goes, it's very simple. So he told me what to do. So I went back and I saw it was basically 2 branches that were coming in around the tree. I just went in and snipped one here and snipped it there and left it alone. And at first it looked fine. It looked like it was still there. After about 2 weeks, all the leaves were turning brown and were dying. And after a while, I could just basically blow it off because it died. All I had to do is snip it. You snip a branch away from its source, and it's going to die. And he says that we need to remain connected. Jesus is our source. He's our nourishment. He's our strength. He's our guide. That's who he is. Without him, we're just a withered branch trying to do things that we can't. That's when he says, apart from me, you can't do anything. You'll die. You'll wither up. You're strong now, and you think you're strong. You're going to go out on your own. But apart from me, if you try to venture out, you're just going to not make it. You're not going to produce fruit. See, this is so important for us to get here. The formation of a person into the image of Christ, meaning our spiritual formation, is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that happens instantly. It cannot be hurried. In fact, let's be honest, it's oftentimes messy, isn't it? Oftentimes, our growth happens through trials and difficulties. Oftentimes, our growth happens when we fail and that we go through things. And sometimes it's just life takes us through things, and it's just like, wow. And other times we have great success because we're plugging along. There's no formula to it. We just have to keep moving and keep bearing fruit, is what he says. I like what Warren Wiersbe says about this whole fruit-bearing thing. He says, a machine and a robot can produce results, but it takes a living organism to produce fruit. A good crop does not come overnight. See, we just can't plug in and all of a sudden get zapped with something good and have great things happen, grow spiritually, produce fruit. It doesn't happen. We're living organisms. Sometimes, we kind of in our mind picture what this would be like. It's just all I need to do is to just, in fact, look at this picture. Sometimes this is what we think. God, read the picture and look up and, oh, God, you're great. I like the lady's face. She's just smiling. Look it's the Bible, and that's not bad. Sometimes it's like that, right? Sometimes you get in the Word, it's like, oh, it's just so incredible. But I don't know about if you're like me, sometimes you get in the Word, it's like, it's work. It's hard. And all of a sudden you read something, you go, well, that didn't feel good, okay? And then you have to deal with what you just read. And the Holy Spirit is working on you. And it's not easy, But you know what I think one of our first choices are oftentimes is we begin to want to change what we do on the outside. Behavior. I'll just change this behavior. I'll start doing this. I'll start doing that. We get our checklist going. And about you, there are times when reading the Bible and prayer is part of a checklist. And I go, okay, I read today, I pray. I'm good. I'm good to go now. And there's nothing wrong with that. Being in the Word is so good and praying is so good. And I hope you're not taking this the wrong way. But it's not a checklist that we go down and then we're going to grow spiritually. It's not how it works. It's a part of who we are. It's our interaction with the Lord, and the Word and prayer is such a vital part of that. But it's not about changing what we do on the outside. In fact, Dallas Willard, I like what he said, that he goes, spiritual formation is not primarily behavior modification, though the modification of behavior is important in the process. It's just not about modifying what our behavior is. It goes much deeper. We cannot come to the point where we look at our external behavior as the indicator of our formation of our spirit. It's not the indicator, because we can go off and do a lot of good things on our own, right? In fact, the Bible talks about people in Matthew chapter 7 who will come up to God one day and, he says, hey, didn't I, in your name prophesy, in your name cast out demons, in your name perform many miracles? And Jesus is going to say, I never knew you, though. Depart from me. It's just not about our behavior and what we do. It goes deeper than that. Sometimes I think that, guys know what this is? This is a towel. Okay, or at least it wants to be a towel. Let's put it this way. It's kind of like a freeze-dried towel. And I think that sometimes we want to be able to be plopped into some water, okay, and just kind of begin to work with, and I hope this works. I tried it at home and it worked. But, sometimes what we want to do is we want to get have you ever heard sermons like the 7 simple steps to a good marriage? Or 4 easy ways to improve your prayer life? Have you ever had that one? And I'm thinking, it should be like 700 things to have a good marriage, right? I mean, isn't it like that? And I don't know about you, but sometimes my prayer life is more of a battle than some easy step that I'm going to take, okay? And this isn't working as fast as I want it to. And but we're going to keep talking here, okay? But what I think really, oftentimes, at least for me, I think sometimes in myself, my spiritual formation looks more like this, okay? Or I'm crawling through the mud, or maybe like this. Okay, running through the mud, there's fire around me, it's horrible. Really, sometimes it looks more like this. I feel like I'm hanging upside down, not even know what to do, okay? And, but what we want to do is we want to jump inside. Ready? We want to jump inside. Oh, almost there. Okay, one more thing. I want to say this to you. In short, I want to say this is that, again, there's no formulas. It's never just putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes things knock us back several feet, don't they? If we get just knocked back several feet, it doesn't mean that we're failing. It doesn't mean that we're not doing things right. It just means that we're going through things. Man, we're going to work through challenges, being shaped by Christ. And we have to look at ourselves in light of Him, not in light of others or what others are doing. And we're going to fail. We're going to fall in this process. It's just, and times it's going to be confusing. But what we want to do is, oftentimes what we want to do is we want to think this. I'm going to throw myself in the water, and I'm going to become a towel. I'm going to become Batman, spiritual superhero, all right? That's what I'm going to become. But that's not how it works, is it? You can't throw it in and pop out something else. It's going to take time, more time than a couple minutes to do that. To so many of us, we live our lives as if our doing, what we do, determines our being, who we are. Do you get that? We live as if our doing determines our being, rather than our being influencing our doing. The things flow out of us, rather than us trying to do things. And our society puts such a huge emphasis on our doing, don't they? What you are, rather than who you are. So, I want to finish with this, with the center of I think where this battle comes in, where the challenge comes in. And usually in a battle, at least I've never been in a battle, I've never been in the military, I've never been in a skirmish. But from what I've read and as I talk to other people, the height of a battle is usually in the place that is most pertinent to success, to victory. Okay? And I believe, and I think it's very clear in Scripture, that for us, the center of our spiritual formation is our mind. Okay? In fact, in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, it says this, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good reputation, if there is any excellence and anything worthy of praise, think on these things. It'd be great if that's what filled our minds when we went to bed. Isn't it great if that's what that would be all about, rather than all the junk that seems to invade us during that time? To think on the things that are pure, lovely, innocent, good reputation. Look up at the screen. I want to read it, and I want you to be able to follow along with it. It says this. As I did some research on think on these things. Think on these things, or some versions say dwell on these things, introduces an important truth, and that is this, that spiritual stability and growth is a result of how a person thinks. This is a command, okay? Think on these things as a command. Proper thinking is not optional in the Christian life. The word logizomai, I'm not Jeff, means more than just entering thoughts. It means to evaluate, to consider, or to calculate. The verb form calls for habitual discipline of the mind set on the thoughts of these spiritual virtues. Romans 12 says this, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. You want to know how to be transformed? So how not to be conformed to what this world says, okay, what it looks good on the outside, what you're doing in those things, but get into the corner, into the center and the core of what we need to be doing, is to renew our minds, to transform our minds. That's where it begins. It didn't say transform your behavior. Did you notice that? It didn't say start doing new things. It says renew your minds. That word renewing means renovation, or the Latin word renovare means to make new, okay? And let's be honest, our thinking affects every area of our life, doesn't it? What we think affects everything in our life. In fact, I was thinking about a few of the money. What we think definitely affects our money, right? You know, if we're going to go into debt for Christmas gifts or not, okay? If we're going to, whatever we're going to do with our money it's determined by our thinking. Words, what words we say, what words we don't say, definitely affected by what we think. How about what we do physically, our bodies? What we think about, nutrition and stuff. People say, that whole dieting stuff, forget that. Give me another double-double, okay? That's one form of thinking, okay? Another form is, hey, I'm going to make this a lean, mean, fighting machine. There's someone who thinks that, not me. But we do that. How about our morals? Our thoughts definitely impact those. How about our relationships? Has your thinking ever changed about somebody and had that affect that relationship? Without a doubt, right? What about our time? How we use our time? Something so valuable, okay? What we think definitely affects what we do with our time. And then God. Our thinking definitely affects God. You know what the scary thing is, though? A lot of people operate, or a lot of people will begin to act upon things that are lies. Isn't it true? We can see story after story of that. Well, I lived in Lancaster for many years. I was a youth pastor up there, and there's a small group of people who didn't like me. Hard to believe, right? Okay, and they didn't. Now, if you either homeschooled, this is nothing against homeschoolers, or if you're involved in Awana, this is nothing against Awana, because I think both are great, okay? All right, but we had some militant homeschool Awana people, okay, who did not like me, all right? I was the youth pastor, but a lot of kids into our youth group, and they just didn't like me, all right? And it was, and I didn't know it, but I guess I was a topic of conversation. And it usually wasn't very good, okay? And the only reason I knew this, because over a 3-month period of time, I had about 8 people come up to me. And I'm not lying. One was an elder, okay? From elder to like kids, new kids in the group, and other people in between. It came up and said, hey, Dave, I just want to let you know I'm sorry that people told me some things about you that I believe, but as I got to know you, it just wasn't true. All of them were almost word for word, a little bit different. But, the girl says, hey, I thought she was a freshman coming into the high school. She goes, oh, no, I'm a sophomore. I go, why didn't you come early? She goes, well, I just believe stupid lies about you. No one would ever tell me what those lies were. I wanted to know so bad, right? Okay, but we can operate off of lies, okay? Now I want to close with this. Thomas Green, in a great book called When the Well Runs Dry. In fact, I think there you go. Discusses the idea in terms of our spiritual life and our spiritual growth of floating rather than swimming. Now I want to explain what he means here. Our first instinct, kind of like our New Year's resolutions, we're going to jump in real quick, right? Real fast, and we're going to kind of, take things, head on, is to just start swimming, okay? Kind of like swimming in the ocean. Leave that up there, okay? And our instinct is to jump in and to swim. But, when we swim, we're active in the process, and that's good because we need to be active in the process, right? Okay, but what can happen is we can begin to swim against the current that God has created us to follow. And we can miss what God has for us because we think, hey, this is where God wants to go. I'm just going to swim there as hard as I can. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Be involved in this. And we can kind of miss what God has created there to help move us along. But when we float, it's a little different, right? Isn't that a great picture? Okay. When you float, you just lay your head back against the water. Now, you have to be active so you don't, drown, okay? You're still involved in it, but what you do when you're not swimming is you sit there and you allow the current to move you where the current is going. You allow God to take you where he wants to take you and the path he wants you to go. I don't know if you've ever allowed a current to take you. It's actually pretty cool. Several years ago, actually in the late 90s, I went on a mission trip down to Ecuador. And we went down into the Amazon for a week, and we're doing VBSs and some teachings and stuff, and there's some different villages, up and down through the Amazon and off these little rivers off the Amazon. It was really, really great. And just amazing to be there in the Amazon River, in the Amazon jungle, actually. And we went upriver about 4 miles to this one village, and we were there, and we were kind of serving with them and kind of sharing with them. And we got through, and as we came down, we were up in a hut up on stilts with about a dozen kids. And we got through with our little VBS, and we kind of came down, and all these men were standing around us just looking at us. And I thought, I don't know if this is good or not, It was a little scary, okay, because they were just kind of looking at us kind of mean. And so I said, what's going on? And Johnny looked at us and said, well, they want to play soccer. Okay, we can do that. I get to keep my head. And so we played soccer for like an hour and a half, okay? They don't understand whole time limits, okay, like we do in America. But we played soccer, barefoot, going to town. And we got through it. It was humid there. We're sweaty, hot. And we're going back to our 30-foot dugout canoe that we would travel up and down the river in. And I said, hey, we're upriver. The current's flowing down to where we're going. Yeah, could we swim down the Amazon? I thought this could be like a once-in-a-lifetime type fun thing. He goes, well, yeah, no one's ever done it, but he goes, we have these floatable cushions in the canoes. Why don't you grab one of those for those who want to? And there are about 6 of us that wanted to. So he goes, well, let's tell you where to go, kind of swim so you're not in the real bad parts. Okay, that was good. But this current took us basically 4 miles down the Amazon. And every now and then I have to swim off to the side. They tell us where to go. It was amazing, though. It was actually a thrill. And sometimes I think, we want to work so hard, but I want you to understand when we place our lives in God's hands, it's a much bigger thrill. And it's not even as hard as when we're trying to do it on our own. When we're going to God and we're connected to Him, allowing Him to work in us. And I want to say this. This year, we're going to be doing some things that I'm really, really excited about. And just within the first quarter of this year, there is a tool that we're going to be giving to you where you can help you determine just kind of where you're at in your walk. And I don't know about you. I asked before, have you ever been in a place where I've been before? Where you just feel like, I feel like I've been in the same place with my walk with the Lord. I don't know how to move from here to there. I don't know what to do. I don't want to wait for something bad for me to just have to trust God. I want to grow. Well, this may help you to see where you're at and kind of give you a spiritual roadmap on something you can do. It's not the end all, but it's a tool. They can help you, take you from here and take you down a path that God could use to move you to a place that you haven't been before. Maybe that next step. Last week, Dane and Jeff talked about maybe that next step or the next half step or wherever you're at. The big thing is that we're moving. It's just a tool. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to start telling you about it. I'm not going to tell you anymore. But it's going to be great. It really is. I'm very, very excited about it. And we're going to have, our midweek, expository preaching time, teaching time on Tuesdays. It's going to start, sometime in February. But there's going to be, we have life groups, a men's fraternity and women's and youth, and we have all kinds of things going on. But, guys, I want you to know more than anything, you need to remember is that you're not in this alone. We're never in this alone. Never in this in isolation. And I want to share one last verse with you. It's Hebrews 10. It says this, let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for He who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not forsaking our own assembling together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day drawing near. Let's pray. God, we love you. We praise you for how good you are. I want to thank you that your desire more than anything else is just for me, is just to spend time with us, is to be with us and be in a close, intimate relationship with us. Lord, it's not that you don't want us to work for you, but that flows out of who we are in you. And God, I pray that you would help us. Father, tonight, I don't know, what's going on here in the hearts and the lives of everyone here, but I pray that they would understand and realize that we'd always understand that, God, you're always there with us. And we're always there for one another. but we're never alone. And God, you have something that you want to give to us that's a thrill. It's not always easy. Oh, God, it's so much better than anything else we could ever experience, and that's life in you. And we love you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.